everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Syndicate. We are here to review one of the many superhero movies being released in the month of June 2023. Josh, tell everybody what we are talking about today.
We are going to be talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
The sequel to the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Quickly, the plot is we're kind of like catching up with a couple of the characters from the first movie, Gwen and Miles. Gwen is kind of sucked into this multiversal plot where she is teamed up with thousands of other spider people, and together they're kind of chasing down anomalies in other dimensions and stopping them after the events of the first movie have kind of ripped open holes in other people's dimensions. And Miles eventually gets kind of sucked up into this, and then his backstory and place in this whole story is slowly revealed to us throughout the movie. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much the plot of this. This is also a part one of this story, so we're kind of that's essentially the whole thing. Like, there's not really much of a resolution by the end. And
we should point out that originally it was actually titled Part 1, right?
Right.
Which I'm so glad they changed. I'm sorry. If there's one pet peeve I have, it's when movies that are not adapted from books call themselves Part 1 and Part 2. It drives me insane. Yeah. And it also drives me insane when new franchises come out, because apparently Zack Snyder's upcoming film is a Part 1. I've had enough of it. Anyway, that's a side note. But continue.
And I think too, really, this movie is a part 2 already.
Yeah, of course.
To the first one, because they are so unbelievably connected, and not just in a sequel way. Like, when you jump from Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2, like the Sam Raimi ones, obviously there's the story has a bit of an overarching thing, but it feels very separated. Between the first one and the second one. This one is so tied into the first one. It really does feel like the same story connected in the next movie. I don't even know where to begin with this movie. It is a work of art. Like, it's so beautiful. It's a love letter to comics and to art and animation and storytelling. The amount of care put into this movie, both story and the visuals, is stunning. And I've even seeing the first movie, it's unbelievable seeing the second one, and I don't know how they did it. It was such a humbling experience watching this movie as an animator, watching it being like, I can't do that. That's unbelievable what they've done. And I have this weird thing when I'm seeing animated movies, or even like movies with a lot of visual effects. Being in the industry, I kind of like have a weird understanding of how it works. So I kind of like, as I'm watching it, subconsciously think about how it was made. This one, there's parts in the movie I don't know. I don't even understand how they could have done it. It's so unique and different, and I've never seen anything like this movie before. Again, even seeing the first one, this one is like visually leaps and bounds beyond what we saw in Into the Spider-Verse.
Right, and the first thing I want to say is that I've always been a fan of traditional animation, but I'm hesitant about a lot of 3D animation. But I feel like these two movies are not just good animated films. They're kind of pointing the direction for what other films could do. They're innovative, right? They're the state 100%. Of the art. Yeah.
The styles of other movies from other studios are changing now to adapt to this new way of looking at animation. It's not just 3D trying to be realistic, but with a little bit of stylization. It's now acceptable, and this is exactly where animation should be going and should already be. Is you're doing something that you can't do in live action. You're supposed to go and push the boundaries of what the visuals can be. And movies like Puss in Boots, the first Puss in Boots movie visually is bland and has this weird uncanny valley feeling
Mm-hmm.
at times. This new one that just came out a couple of months ago is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, it's stunning, and they've really developed this new way of looking at animation and making the characters more appealing and the
Mm-hmm.
action and the way that they're telling stories, adapting like comics and how the panels work on screen with the
Mm-hmm.
animation as well. The fact that every single dimension is a different style.
Yes.
We had a small glimpse of that in the first one. We didn't go to any other dimensions in Into the Spider-Verse. We're kind of stuck in Miles' version of
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, and other characters are plucked out of their dimension and they're kind of animated and stylized in their universe's style. So everything about Spider Noir is in black and white. Even
Mm-hmm.
his like word bubbles and things that he does, it's all black and white. Spider Ham is like cartoony,
Sure.
like Bugs Bunny type of style. Penny Parker is anime, like full on. Um, so they've taken that idea and expanded it so much in this. Uh, Gwen's Gwen Stacy's world in this movie is so visually stunning. It both takes animation and watercolor and like comic art to like a
Mm-hmm.
whole new direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they've combined it in such a fun way. Like it feels like a watercolor painting come to life.
Right.
And they've taken the idea of it being a fluid watercolor visual medium, and they've adapted that to show the feeling of what's happening. So like when she's sad and like feeling upset, the whole world around her is in this like blue watery light. And then when she's talking to her dad, it's kind of like divided halfway in the middle. And then when she connects with him on a personal level and they make up, we see that once they embrace, there's like watercolor bleeding
Mm-hmm.
from blue
Yes.
to pink, and it just like takes up the whole screen. Like just the attention to detail with absolutely everything is just mind blowing. Um, and the amount of time it took them to make this is crazy as well. I was reading uh, this interview with Haley Steinfeld, who voiced Gwen, and she said that she was recording lines for this movie for 4 years.
What?
Four
Really?
years just recording the lines. So imagine how much time this movie took to make and
Sure.
to develop and to like create ways to visually do the things that they want to do in this movie.
But I want to point out,
Mhm.
and I'm not an expert on animation, but usually they can do a voiceover for a character in like a day, can't they?
No, it usually takes a while, and
Okay.
just like they start early as
Mm-hmm.
well with animation, and as the development process goes on, they kind of update the scripts and they get new voice work.
Mm.
So usually for film, it is a longer process for recording voiceover. For something like TV, where it's very like cut and dry, like here are
Mm-hmm.
the scripts. There's so many of them. We need to get them done. You could probably record a whole episode of something in a day,
Mm-hmm.
but for movies, it's usually a long process of development
Mm. Okay, I
because
didn't know that.
they also can't finish a shot without the final audio because
Yes.
the timing of everything is
Mm-hmm.
dependent on the the voice actor's audio. So if something is going to change, even a small change, the entire scene might have to shift. And when the character does an action or does something, it might have to shift and change. And then the lip sync is going to have to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long process, especially with films like these that have a lot of writers on it and are in development for a long time. Um, yeah, it can be a long process.
So yeah, and I also I want to bring this around to comic book art because we talk
Mhm.
about comic book art a lot. This is actually why I have completely gotten over Alex Ross. Okay,
Mhm.
are you familiar with Alex Ross?
Yeah.
When I was a teen, or in my late teens, I thought he was, God's gift to comic book art. But I've come to see his art as depicting cosplayers in painted backgrounds. I mean, yes, he has contributed some original ideas, like the whole idea of like, what would Spider-Man look like crawling outside of a window if you were in an office building? Or what would Giant Man look like stepping over a regular person on the street? Like, I give him credit for that. And obviously he has hand-eye coordination. But I really think that his style suits some people, like say Aquaman, but not other people, like say Batman. And I don't understand the obsession with getting superheroes to look as realistic as possible, which, as we see with this movie, if you go in almost the opposite direction, like you're obviously they do act like real people and they have facial expressions like real people, but they're exaggerated, and the texture and the color is mimicking comic book art as it should, right? And it's just so well done. Like, it's not just a piece of popular entertainment. It's like you said, it's influencing other movies and other TV shows. And the first one, I believe, won Best Animated Feature.
It did, yeah.
And I guarantee this one will as well.
For sure,
right?
Yeah. And I think, too, it's a testament to their love of filmmaking and comic book art and just, like, animation and art in general. And also, I think it really helps the fact that it is an animation on a filmmaking side as well, because in North America, at least to me, it feels like a lot of the times big studios, they see an animated project and they're kind of like, whatever, do whatever you want with your little art project.
Yes.
Where a feature film is very much like, okay, this is our chance. Everybody's got to be in on these meetings. Everybody's got to contribute because we've got to make this the most profitable, best product we can. Where in animation, it's kind of just thrown off to the side. Especially with Sony, a lot of the times with their live action stuff, it feels very board oriented, right? Like a bunch of people in suits have written this movie. Where this, it feels like the artist just made the movie that they wanted to make, and that's why it is so successful. I mean, they love this movie. They love this idea so much. Something else that I learned about this movie, like a part of this movie, was also, we're talking spoilers, by the way.
Sure.
If anybody doesn't know, the sequence that is set in the Lego universe.
Yes. I
just learned was animated by a 14-year-old kid.
Come on.
Who made a fan trailer. He recreated the Across the Spider-Verse trailer in Lego form and posted it online. And the filmmakers loved it so much, they got in contact with him and asked him to animate the Lego world sequence in his home after he was done school and during his summer breaks. He spent his time talking with the directors and creating it completely by himself.
That is amazing.
And those sequences in the movie are animated by that 14-year-old kid.
What a story. I love hearing that.
Unbelievable. Like, it's just like everything about it is just like so lovingly done and thoroughly thought out and planned. It is close to, I think, one of the perfect movies, even animation or not, that like I think you could get to. Well,
we're going to talk about that right now because now we're going to jump to the script, okay? Which I don't think is perfect. And I wish Becca was here because I know this is the point where she would start cursing my name.
Right.
But if you take away the beautiful experimental animation and just talk about the plot, my first instinct is that I did think it was too long because this is, I believe, I think it's the longest American big studio animated film ever made. As far as I know, it's 140 minutes, which honestly, as being an animated feature, I went in thinking, I'll be in and out of here in 75 minutes, but no, which is fine. That's fine. That was my own fault. But again, talking about spoilers, the point where Miles Morales is being chased up that, what is it, a tower?
Like
I don't even know
train?
What it is. Yeah, a train. I don't even know what it was. So I was like, what is that? I thought that was like, oh, this is now going to be the cliffhanger because I knew that there was a cliffhanger coming, but then they
Mhm.
just kept going and going. And I'm not saying it was like dragging out. I just felt like the pacing was weird, and that, and again, when we talk about the length of a film, when people say a film is too long, what they really mean is that it was too boring, right? Because to me, if a film is good, it can go on forever. Like I've
Mhm.
never heard anyone complain about the length of The Godfather, and I think it's almost 4 hours long. It's a great movie, but with this film, I think it was actually too fast paced, and so it made it feel like, oh, it's almost over. But if they would have kind of like had more peaks and valleys, right? Like
Mm.
slowed down a little bit more often, it made it feel like a typical 3 act structure, it would have helped it a little bit. But that's kind of a minor quibble I have. As far as the dialogue, I was talking about this with someone online. I didn't think the dialogue was great. I feel like the first
Hmm.
movie was maybe better. I
Yeah,
know
I think
it
it's a
was
story for sure. Yeah.
great. This is the same. It's Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, but now they have David Callahan. Did he work on the first one as well?
Possibly.
Okay, I'm looking it up. He did
Yeah.
not. Oh, the first one was Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman.
Okay.
This one is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller and David Callahan. So it is slightly different writers. Maybe that's why it just I didn't think the dialogue was as sharp. It felt a little bit more generic to me. Um, so yeah, I don't think it was one of the greatest movies ever made. It was definitely art-wise, it was animation-wise, it was, but the script, there was a lot of things I liked about it. Like I like the fact that the first, I don't know, 10, 50 minutes was all Gwen.
Yeah, so
I thought
great.
that
Introducing
was
her
yes.
into the world and like getting a glimpse of where the story's going, I think was a
Hmm.
very smart idea instead of catching up with Gwen and then her having to explain what
Right.
happened, being able to visually see it and kind of pulling her into the foreground to be more of a main character in this is was a very smart choice, I think.
Right, right. And then bringing back our favorite supervillain find, the Spot, who we
So great.
discovered. Well, obviously he already existed, but we elevated him to his current level of popularity, the
Of
Spot, on Here
course.
Comes the
I mean,
Spycast.
they
Yes.
probably chose him after listening to our
Our
podcast,
episodes,
right?
our
Yeah.
podcast that has
Yeah.
6 listeners. Yes. But anyway,
With
yeah.
being Chris and Phil.
Yeah, exactly right. But it's funny though because I didn't actually I mean maybe I should know this, but I didn't really know the cast until after I watched the movie. So want to quickly go through some of these characters because there's a lot of them.
A lot of
Um,
them, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so for example, I actually don't know Shamik Moore. Do you? From other things?
No,
Played
I
Miles
don't.
Morales. Yeah, I don't know who he is, so I can't really. I mean, he did a good job, but I just
Yeah.
can't comment on him otherwise. I didn't realize Gwen Stacy was played by Haley Steinfeld,
Yeah, she's fantastic.
whom we all know from Hawkeye as well as Bumblebee and True Grit. She's a great actress. I love her. She was perfect in this role. Hey,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah, she's
absolutely
great.
perfect. Yep. Who do we got here?
Oscar Isaac as Miguel.
And I didn't know it was him. He was
So
great. Yes,
fantastic.
perfect.
I'll just start kind of like
Sure.
listing them
Yeah.
off. We have Daniel Kaluuya as Spider Punk. We had Jason Schwartzman as the Spot.
No, wait,
Andy
wait, no, back up
Samberg.
though. But I
Okay.
just want to say, for people that don't know, Daniel Kaluuya is from Nope, um,
Get Out.
Get Out. Like, he is a
He's a Black
what's the
Panther.
yeah
He's
Black Panther. What was he the black activist from the Black? Yeah, it was about the Black Panthers. What was that called? It was called oh geez.
Oh,
Okay, well let's click on it really quick. It was called. It was called Judas and the Black Messiah, an excellent
okay.
movie. So anyway, he's a great actor. He's perfect in this role.
Yeah.
You mentioned Oscar Isaac. Obviously, we know him from Star Wars. From he was in Drive. He's one of the biggest actors, like rising stars right now.
Yeah.
He's already a star, right? I thought that the guy who did Spider-Man India was so awesome.
He's great. Yeah. He's a very funny actor as well. He was the cab driver from Deadpool,
Oh, he's
which is what
great.
a
I
lot of
love
people
that guy.
would recognize him
Yes.
from. He's a very great comedic actor.
Right. And you know,
Um,
I just gotta say, some of these little Spider-Verse spin-offs, some of them are better than others, but his character was great. Now, I know, is he a character from the comics? Yeah, I guess he is, right?
he is, but they had this is another great thing, and just like uh boosting Chris and
Ah.
Phil, the creators of this. They originally had a different idea for what his version of they call it like is like Mumbai and Brooklyn kind of mixed together. It's like an Indian version of Brooklyn. Really cool.
Okay, right.
And they weren't really sure of the direction, what style to go to, so they actually called in the actor to the writer's room and they brainstormed what this character in this world would be like. So like
Mm.
things like the whole chai tea bit was this actor's idea and his kind of
Smart.
experience explaining to like his American friends his
Mhm.
like Indian life and
Sure.
bringing his culture into this world and really bringing it to life. So yeah, he was definitely an asset in this movie and one of my favorite parts and sequences
Yes.
in this.
Absolutely, me too. Also,
Yeah, sorry.
I used to have #1 of this comic. I remember now, Spider-Man India. But anyway, go
Oh,
ahead.
really?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of like small character like actors that just kind of show up randomly. Like Andy Samberg plays Ben Reilly.
Yes. I was
which is
laughing my ass off.
hilarious.
Now that I know it's him, I'm laughing even more because I
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
It's great. So him being like a moody, like 90s comic character in the movie,
Yes.
it's so good.
So fun.
You had Jack Quaid.
Who did he play?
He played Spider-Man in Gwen's universe.
Oh, from The Boys.
From The Boys, yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
So he played like they've perfectly brought all of these like characters and cast them perfectly. I don't think there was one character that didn't feel right,
Right.
voice acting wise. Like they did a really good job of casting everybody.
I agree.
Even J.K. Simmons coming back to be JJ in like
Mhm.
multiple different universes in this movie was a really cool choice.
Well, there was
and-
also the live action appearance by.
Donald Glover
Yes. So
as the Prowler, who
Yes.
is Aaron Davis. Aaron Davis in the MCU. And he was never kind of brought in to be the Prowler. Maybe they're going to do that in the future, especially now with the success of Miles Morales. I'm sure they're going to do a Miles Morales movie, live action movie. So maybe he will have a chance to be Aaron Davis in live action for real. But I don't know if you know this, Mike, but the whole origin of Miles Morales in the real world came from Donald Glover.
what?
Because when they announced
Really?
that they were making The Amazing Spider-Man, there was this crazy online campaign where they wanted Donald Glover to play Peter Parker.
Okay.
And it was kind of this online feud of like, well, Spider-Man isn't black. He can't be played by a black man. And there was like this huge internet campaign to make him Spider-Man. And then around that time, they created, I think it was Bendis, right? Created
Bendis,
Miles
yeah.
Morales and based his look and characterization on Donald Glover.
I had no idea. Okay.
And in the TV show Community,
Hmm.
Donald Glover's character is shown in a Spider-Man costume in Spider-Man PJs, waking up one morning or something as a nod to that. And of course, the Russo brothers famously worked on Community, and Chris and Phil working on Community. So like,
I didn't know
all
this.
this,
Okay.
like crazy connection is so interesting. So really, Donald Glover is like the origin of Miles Morales. So
I had no idea.
Aaron
Wow.
Davis and showing up in this movie, I think is brilliant.
Wow.
And I think that the live action, not even sequences, but like moments were perfectly done.
Yeah.
Because there's also the moment where the Spot is jumping from dimension to dimension, and he shows up at the convenience store from the Venom movies.
Yes, that was a nice little nod. Yep.
which is pretty cool. So, yeah, those moments didn't feel out of place and felt like they weirdly fit into this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh man, yeah, this is. And maybe I mean honestly, I could talk about this movie for hours, but maybe we can kind of talk about Miles' part in this whole big story and kind of
Sure.
where we're left at the end of the movie.
Yes. It's a. Yeah. Go ahead. Explain. Yeah.
So The reason for all of these spider people to be working together in uh, Miguel O'Hara's universe is that after the events of the first Into the Spider-Verse, where the collider explodes, again, there's a bunch of like anomalies that are happening, and other characters from other universes are popping into different universes, and there's like a big mess. So all of these spider people are kind of teaming up to go in and capture all of these villains or heroes or whatever, all of these anomalies, and they're sending them back to the universe that they belong in. And for some reason, Miguel does not want Miles to be a part of this team. And we're led to believe as an audience that it's because he caused the anomaly. He caused this like explosion. And it's very strange that Miguel is acting like this just because of that, because really Miles saved the day because he wasn't the one to open the portal. He just put everybody back in and shut it down.
Sure.
So it's a little strange. We kind of see him as like a full-on villain, and then it's revealed that Miles Morales himself is an anomaly. And the Spot is one of the scientists who worked for Fisk in the first movie, the one that is hit by a bagel, of course. So great. Which is probably a nod to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Maybe I don't know.
It's the whole verse is like the bagel thing, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
See, with the bagel, and then
I'm the one person who didn't like that movie, so I don't remember everything about it. Yeah, but
the spider that bit Miles Morales was actually from another universe that the Spot actually brought to this universe to study, and it got loose and bit Miles Morales. So Miles Morales shouldn't have happened. Like him becoming Spider-Man shouldn't have happened in this universe. And we also learned that the universe that the spider came from, that version of Miles Morales was supposed to be Spider-Man, but because that spider was taken away, his canon event didn't happen, which caused him to become the Prowler. And when Miles Morales is escaping this like facility with all of these spider people, he's sent to his home universe. But when the machine is reading it, he's sent to the universe where the spider came from and not his own. So he's now stuck there, and he goes to meet his family, and then his uncle is still alive, and it's revealed that this version of Miles became the Prowler, and he's kind of like now chained up and stuck in that universe, and that's where the movie ends. And I think that is so unbelievably brilliant. It's crazy how this was planned even from the start, from Into the Spider-Verse, because when the spider is first shown in that movie, he's in the subway station and he's like doing the graffiti on the walls. As the spider is coming down from the wall, it starts to glitch. Like all do when they're not in their own dimension.
Okay.
So like the spider is glitching right from the start.
Did you notice that?
I noticed, yeah. Well, I didn't put the two and two together when watching Into the Spider-Verse, but when watching this, I was like, that totally makes sense.
Wow. Okay. So it was foreshadowed.
And then even down to when Miles and his universe's version of Peter Parker, before he dies in that event, when they meet each other, their spider senses sync. Remember, and they kind of realize that each other is.
I don't remember, but okay, yeah.
We see almost like a comic panel behind the two of them, and it's divided down the middle. And when you're looking at Peter, it's red and blue are the two colors. And then when we flip over, we look at Miles, it's divided and it's green and purple. And as their spider senses sync, it hit the green and purple background turns to red and blue.
Okay.
So we actually see his like fate change.
Yes. Interesting.
To becoming Spider-Man. So like laying all of these things right from the beginning and then connecting it so well to this one is just brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Yeah. Well, how about that planning out a trilogy before you start filming it, right? Like
Yeah.
planning, that's how it should be done, right? Like you have your cliffhangers ready to go and you build towards them, and yeah, that's how it's done, right? And I like how you pointed out that Sony kind of let them do what they want, because let's be clear, this movie is so much better than Venom and Venom 2 and Morbius.
And really anything in the MCU,
Yeah,
like for
honestly,
the most part.
oh no, like at the very least, it's the vision of creators, like you said, who love film, who love comic books, who are doing what they want. They're doing their own style. They're writing it their own way. They're planning it their own way. And it's so rare with Marvel Studios films, other than James Gunn, who really, I mean, who really has put their own stamp on their Marvel Studios films? Not many other people.
Not many.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
And that was the original idea behind it, right? Like when they were first developing the MCU, they had Edgar Wright attached to make Ant-Man, and that was supposed to be one of the first movies in the MCU to come out around the same time as Iron Man, but it was just stuck in development hell because they didn't want Edgar Wright to make an Edgar Wright movie.
Right.
They wanted him to make an MCU movie, and it never worked out. So
well, you know what?
The MCU could be totally different if they just let the directors make the movies that they wanted to make.
There's a certain famous YouTube channel that sides with Marvel Studios over Edgar Wright and all those types of disputes. And I've always been on the side of the creators, because we now see where it's like Marvel Studios, everyone's kind of agreeing they're getting stale. Everyone's agreeing they're getting tired of it. And there's a reason for that. It's not just magic. It's because Marvel Studios thinks they create the films. They think they direct the films. That's not how movies are made, right? Movies have to be made by individual creators, by individual artists. And of course, they have to play ball to some extent. But as we saw with James Gunn, like, look at what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And now he's hopefully going to do the same thing with
I really hope so.
Films. I really hope so too, yeah.
I mean, even the Ant-Man movies, like I unfortunately wasn't part of the Quantumania review.
Right.
But I really like the first two Ant-Man movies.
Me too.
I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that. But the third one was really bad. Yeah. It was awful. And it's because it wasn't an Ant-Man movie.
No,
they changed what made the first two movies special, which was that it was a superhero movie, but the genre of storytelling was a heist movie. And that was just completely absent in Quantumania. It was just this weird, crazy, off the wall nonsense movie that things just kind of happened, right?
Well, also a superhero whose powers are based on shrinking or growing exists in a CGI world where none of that has any meaning.
Right. It's just so
makes no sense. Yeah.
It's very strange, and it feels like they are getting away from what made having different characters, having different movies special. Right? Like when you're watching a Captain America movie versus a Thor movie, they should feel completely different.
Right.
But most of the MCU projects now kind of have the same feeling going on.
Yes.
And it's really getting tiring. Even with the shows, they were starting off, I feel like, making them very unique. Like WandaVision is very different. And then Moon Knight was starting to be different, and then it became superhero show.
Generic, yeah.
Hawkeye was fun, but it was just superhero show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like everything is all
so generic,
just the same. And
I didn't enjoy Loki. I didn't enjoy. I actually did. I skipped. She-Hulk was the first one I skipped. And I'm certainly gonna skip Echo. I don't give a shit about Echo.
I know. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it being very successful. Even Secret Invasion is coming out in 2 weeks. Isn't that crazy?
It's off my radar.
Yeah, like who's even talking about Secret Invasion? And it could be such a great idea if they just allowed somebody to take this idea of a espionage, like a murder mystery-esque story where you don't know who is who and who's really who they say they are, and stretch that out and be a great TV show first, and then connect it to the MCU and be superhero show second.
Exactly.
And that's really what
the
this
key.
feels like, right?
Mhm.
This movie is not just trying to be a superhero movie. The fact that they're superheroes is secondary to the fact that they are characters who
Mhm.
have feelings and have their own stories.
Mhm.
And them just happening to be superheroes is just kind of flavor, essentially. Like, it's just kind of where the story is set.
Yep.
So
As it should be. As it should
yeah,
be. Yeah.
yeah.
And you
And
know, sometimes you get into these debates with people where you're like, where you kind of debate about motivation and psychology, and people will say, "Oh, you're worried about that in a movie about blank, like superheroes,
yeah.
zombies, aliens." Well, yes, I am, because no matter what the setting is, no matter what the genre is, the characters have to feel real, and they have to behave logically, right? Like
Mhm.
Miles Morales' issues with his parents, with school, are universal, and it's what he's saying and what he's doing is logical. It's not just forced in there to create melodrama and create false conflict. It's
Mhm.
real, right? And that's why people enjoy the movie, and that's why everyone's liking it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the characters is a cybernetic future vampire superhero, and he has more like character and depth than most of the characters in the MCU or
I agree.
DCU. Like
I agree.
any of these live action movies, any movie really recently. Like, it's so crazy that there's so many characters in this movie and they all feel well rounded and like real characters, and it's not just them explaining what their characters are. We're really shown and we see the development of them throughout.
That's a good point. Yep,
It's great.
you're right.
So
So I think it's safe to
oof.
say we both enjoy this film. I mean,
Mhm.
I think you enjoyed it more than me, but I did really like this film,
Yeah.
especially for the animation. And like I agree with you. It is one of the best animated films of the past several years, and
Mhm.
the innovation, the state of the art, like it is pointing the industry in a different direction, I think, and I hope we see more of it. And I hope that this leads to more original, more stylized projects from Marvel and from DC and from Sony, right?
Yeah, I really hope
So,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. And it feels
Um,
like these movies are sending a ripple throughout the industry because everything is changing in the industry now and
mhm.
kind of adapting to the fact that something doesn't have to be status quo to be successful.
Yep.
Making things are artistic and meaningful to the story and the people telling the stories is what is going to make things successful.
And the fact that this film has already made twice as much money as Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and it's only been
Mhm.
out for a week, it tells you that there is no superhero fatigue. There's just
It,
bad movie fatigue.
it's the second biggest opening weekend movie of the year so far. Only followed by, or yeah, it's the best
Eclipsed
one,
by.
eclipsed by the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was also
Really?
the two highest grossing
Wow.
weekend box office wise is Mario and Spider-Verse.
Good. Good.
So I think really we're kind of seeing the resurgence of great filmmaking and animation. So
That's right. There you go.
can't wait for the next one. And they have a tentative release date for the next one of March, but
Next
I have
year?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
but I have a feeling it's going to be pushed back. And I kind of hope that they do push it back. I'd rather wait a year or two
Sure.
and get the sequel we all want than to like have it rushed for March. But
I agree 100%. And I'm actually I can't believe it's already been 5 years since the last one. It feels like it
yeah,
just came out, but time flies, right? So anyway, that wraps up our review of Across the Spider-Verse. We
mhm.
will be back very soon with more movie reviews. The next one, it's tentative. It's Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I don't know
Right.
if we're gonna do that one for sure, but we will be doing The Flash, absolutely.
Okay.
And we might be doing Indiana Jones, only because it was once a comic book, and the old comic book syndicate did review Indiana
Crystal
Jones
Skull.
and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and we all
Mhm.
hated it. But yeah, we
Mhm.
might be doing Indiana Jones, but we're absolutely going to be back for Flash. So be sure to join us there. And I guess that's it. So yes, comic book syndicate movie reviews will continue throughout the rest of the year. So be sure to join us, and join us for Slam and
Cape
Cape
Crusaders.
Crusaders, and
Right.
Movies Are Quinoology.
And make sure you let us know what you guys thought about this movie in the comments below. We want to keep that comics conversation going, so please comment, let us know what you guys think, and share your thoughts on the movie.
All right, there you go. See you next time.